video. Well, yeah, in this episode of the parkour tutorials, I'm going to be learning the dive roll. Also the Arabian roll and the back roll. But, you know, mainly the dive roll. So, yeah, let's get on with the tutorials, I guess. Alright, so to do a dive roll, you want to be really comfortable with the safety roll, which was the previous tutorial. You can check that out in the iCard. And you want to be able to do it from a few different angles. You might want to start doing some height drops to start getting the safety roll down a little better. But you want to have a really solid safety roll. You're not hurting yourself. You're not doing a somersault. It's a clean safety roll. You want to get to that point. And basically, to progress from a safety roll to a dive roll, you want to start jumping and then doing a safety roll. So just start jumping higher and higher, or going further and further, and then doing a safety roll. And that's some good training. And as soon as you start getting good distance and height, you're basically ready to take it into a dive roll. Now the only difference between doing a dive roll and jumping into a safety roll is with a dive roll, you're landing with your hands and then you're doing a roll out instead of jumping and then rolling. So to do a dive roll, you want to jump and then you kind of want to go into kind of a handstand type motion where you're using your hands flared out like this to plant them on the ground and then do your safety roll. So you kind of want to jump onto your hands and then do the roll out. Like that. And that's your basic dive roll. And depending on which shoulder you roll on, again, I'm lefty, you want to bend that side's elbow like this. So when you're coming into the roll, you're like this, but then you do this, kind of. So you kind of lean like this, and that gets you into the roll a little easier, especially when you're doing high dive rolls, where you're jumping really high and then coming down like a missile type dive rolls. That's what you want to do. Dive rolls are good for like grass, but you can also do them on hard ground, but it's not recommended. So I had to move locations because the kids are winging and they won't do anything. I know that was a lot of bleeps, and I did swear there because I am so mad at them. You know who you are, except that one person who helped me pick up my things. Thank you. But I'll remember that. You. Anyways. Okay, so before the stupid kids came along, what I was trying to say is I was diver for distance progressions. So a distance dive roll is different from a height dive roll. So height dive roll, you're going like a missile like this. For a distance dive roll, you're going for distance, you're trying to go far. They are different. One thing I do want to mention is what's not different is the hand planting thing. That's exactly the same. You still do the same shoulder compression into the roll. It's the same for a height dive roll and a distance dive roll. They don't change. So to do, the progressions for height dive roll, you kind of jump in, then you kind of go into a handstand. But it's different for distance because you're trying to go far, not high. So you go for distance. A progression is you can kind of lean forwards with your hands like this, almost like you're going into a plank, except you're going to do a roll instead of just going into a plank. So you kind of lean forward and then do your roll out. Doing that, keep progressing until you get all the way where your arms fully extended. And to get your arms fully extended, you'll notice you start having to jump a little bit. And that's the next step. You just kind of jump into that. But after you get yourself comfortable, kind of jumping, doing little jumps into it, then you can start getting more speed or doing like it from standstill. It doesn't actually matter. But you can start getting a little more power, a little bit more jumping. And you kind of want to be jumping forwards, not up. You want to be jumping like this, not like this. So you kind of jump. And that's the entire point of a dive roll. You're jumping into a safety roll. So yeah, just keep progressing. You can basically infinitely progress. Farther and farther you can jump, farther and farther you can do dive rolls. So yeah, just keep practicing doing longer and longer jumps. You can get some speed and do longer dive rolls. Here's an example of me getting a lot of speed. Just keep progressing, keep jumping farther and farther or higher and higher. And that's your dive roll. So since this is the advanced safety rolls tutorial, we're gonna go over another variation of the safety roll, the back roll. The back roll isn't that useful. You don't really use it that often, but it's good to have still. And yeah, here's how you do it. So to do your back roll, you kind of want to go a safety roll, but literally just in reverse. That is literally the progression for it. That is how you learn how to do a back roll. You do a safety roll, and then you do the exact same movement in reverse. Reversing. Yeah, that's the only progression. The only thing that's different is when you're going back, you kind of have to kick your leg out a little bit. To stand back up again, but that's it. So to practice doing back rolls, just basically just do a safety roll and do the movement in reverse and keep doing it a couple times, and you get back rolls. Normally, if you need to do a back roll, like if someone's pushing you backwards, you can also just plant your opposite foot to the side where you roll. So if you roll on your right shoulder, you would plant your left foot, and if you roll on your left shoulder, like me, you would plant your right foot. If someone pushes you back and you would need to do a back roll, you could just plant that foot and kind of do a turn like that. And then you can just kind of do a 180 basically, and then do a safety roll. So back roll, turn into a safety roll. Right, so if you're jumping backwards or whatever, kind of do that. If someone pushes you backwards, you can kind of do a step and then go into a safety roll. And if you're falling backwards, you kind of have to do a back roll. There's not really an easy way to turn unless you know how to turn in the air. Just a little difficult. That's the back roll. Again, back rolls aren't that useful. You don't really have to learn them. I normally never do back rolls anyways. But if you want to know how to do them, that's how you do them. And now we're getting into kind of a scary variation of a safety roll, an Arabian dive roll. It's a variation on a dive roll, but it's technically a safety roll variation, so whatever. So yeah, this is the advanced rolls category, so, So to do an Arabian dive roll, you want to have your normal dive rolls pretty good. You want to be able to kind of send them, you want to be able to get a lot of height. You also probably want to learn how to, kemi out of a dive roll in case you fail. That's actually pretty nice for an Arabian because you're going upside down slightly, so you kind of need to know how to bail a little bit. failing is the same as Utemi, how to fall safely, not get hurt. And yeah, that was in the beginner mistakes, not learning. So make sure you learn how to kind of fail. The best way to learn Utemi is to literally throw yourself in the air and try to recover with safety rules and cartwheels and like quadrupedal movement. That's basically the best way to do Utemi. Kind of just throw yourself in the air and try and recover. It's kind of what I do to practice Utemi, but you know, if you want to have a good dive roll and maybe a little knowledge of how to Utemi out of a dive roll in case you fail at it, or going to sideways in a direction or whatever. And yeah, once you have that down, there's the actual 180 dive roll. You're kind of going into a backflip, okay? It could help if you know how to backflip, but I don't know how to backflip and I can still 180 dive roll, so it's not required or anything. But an Arabian dive roll is when you're standing like this, and you kind of go into a backflip set where you do this. Throw your arms back like that. You're not doing a backflip, so don't even try. I don't want people breaking their necks, okay? Don't do backflips. To do a 180. Don't do it. This is an Arabian dive roll. If you don't know, by the way, this is what it is. So to progress into that, since you probably don't want to just send a 180, that's probably kind of stupid. You kind of just walk your way up, turn more and more and more, right? Eventually you're about here, and you'll notice that whenever you try and jump backwards, it doesn't really work. Because with the actual Arabian, you can't just do this. I mean, you can if you want, but to really do them, you want to kind of go into like a hot set. So you're kind of bad. So you're going to have to jump up in the air a little bit, throw your arms back a little, but you kind of just want to do a 180 in the air. So, yeah, here's a slow-mo of me doing it. Yeah, you're just kind of, you're jumping back, then you're doing a twist, and then you're pointing your hands in and doing a roll. Arabians are really nice because you can kind of trick people into thinking you're doing a backflip when you're actually doing an Arabian. So yeah. Also, if you have a jacket that's kind of flared out like mine does, it's a hoodie where it unzips, so you do this. Parts of the hoodie that hang off kind of flare out and turn whenever you do it, and it looks really cool. That's the Arabian dive roll. Basically, you just want to keep progressing, do a normal dive roll, turn slightly, do a dive roll, but turn slightly, jump up, turn in the air, and then do a dive roll. And then eventually, at this point, where you jump back, you turn, and you just want to get more height. Yeah, that's it. They're kind of scary. I'd recommend practicing these on like a mattress instead of on grass. Practice any of these on grass, obviously. It'll be a little scary. So, yeah. Yeah, that's the Arabian. Arabians are pretty cool. They're also a little scary, though. So be careful. But, yeah. That concludes episode 3 of Parkour Tutorials. So yeah, let me know if you're enjoying this. This was the advanced dive roll slash or not just advanced dive rolls, just like advanced safety roll types and everything. So yeah, next tutorial will be of vaulting. We're gonna go over the most basic vaults. And yeah, and then the tutorial after that will be the advanced vaults. Hallinator signing out. Bye, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to get notified when I do this POV dive roll. I don't know.